Welcome, everybody, to the Fantasy Formula, and we're live ahead of the sprint race for the Miami Grand Prix. And Terry, I'm so excited for this episode because we've got a lot to unpack and a lot of points on the table.
And a lot of questions with maybe no answers.
Well, we do have some breaking news to start the show today, and that's that Arvid Lindblad is going to be starting the sprint race from the pit lane. VCarb had an infringement last night as to when they covered his car, and so he'll be starting at the back of the grid this week. So let's bring up the classifications from sprint qualifying to see what that means for some fantasy relevant assets. You can see Arvid initially qualified P15. He's going to slot in all the way back by the two Aston Martin. So that's going to promote Liam Lawson to P15. Esteban Ocon to P16. So that's one fewer overtake two big fantasy assets could be getting this weekend. Also, Sergio Perez for some of you considering him as well.
Perfect news. Perfect news, eh?
So a little bit of a stinger to start, but also with how slow Lindblad looked in free practice one, I don't see him as a huge overtake threat in the sprint. So for those of us that had Lindblad entering the week, I would probably bail off of him as quickly as possible.
Yeah, no, definitely. They were certainly struggling, weren't they? At some point, VCarb were all through yesterday, to be honest.
Terry, you shared a really funny fact about Aston Martin's qualifying time. Could you share it with the class?
And well, it goes back to Fernando's famous GP2 engine, doesn't it? So basically, Fernando Alonso's qualifying time was actually slower than the pole position for the F2, which was held obviously in Miami yesterday. So literally, there's a direct comparison that Aston Martin's car is currently slower than an F2 car, which is it's laughable but criminal at the same time. Let's be honest about it. It's we laugh about it, but ultimately, what a place to be in. Yeah, especially after a break as well. And not in a good way, not in a good way at all. I mean, shocking is the only word I can use to describe it.
I can't believe the fastest Aston Martin yesterday was Mari Boya, of all people. So definitely tough news for Aston Martin, but we were avoiding them this weekend anyway. All right, let's fire this up because we've got a lot of our friends in the chat. I see Race Mavens here, Fussel's here. Welcome, everybody, and good morning. I know for my North and South American friends, our European friends, we're finally meeting at a good time. I feel like I've got the most energy I've had in any of these live shows all season.
It's okay, yeah. I can live with this. I can live with this time.
Fantastic. Now let's move up the grid a little bit and break down some of that sprint qualifying from yesterday. So we can see Audi continuing to contend for top 10 finishes, finishing just outside the top 10 here in 11 and 12. Things looking really good for Alpine. P8 and P10, Franco into SQ3, which is fantastic for him. Potentially a little dodgy as he could lose some positions in the sprint today, but great in terms of the pace of the Alpine. But it's when we get to the top that things get really interesting. We've had McLaren win 2 straight Grand Prix here in Miami. Lando Norris takes sprint pole. And so, Terry, the big question is, has McLaren unlocked the secret to tackling the behemoth of Mercedes and getting this race win?
I think this is the question. It's a big unknown, isn't it? I mean, we've had limited action with obviously FP1 going. We've had quite a few sort of ideas. Cooler weather tends to suit Mercedes. So if the temperature drops, like it's not been as hot as what it's been the past few days, that tends to lean itself towards Mercedes again. But McLaren have definitely unlocked something with their updates. The big question now is, even with those updates, Kimi was only just behind a 0.2. And when I looked at it earlier, it's all in the corners, to be honest. That's where straight line speed, Mercedes still got it. McLaren have obviously done a trade-off to get the actual in and out of corners faster, and it's paid off. But I think the biggest stat I saw yesterday was Lando Norris actually got pole with no purple sectors whatsoever, which is pretty good going. But it also shows you that they're good all over the track and all round, which is what you want. But I think for me, it's whether or not tyre wear is going to play a part, whether or not they can hold on to it. Starts, I think if Mercedes can get the jump at the start, then it's going to be hard to overtake that Mercedes at Kimi, of course. So I think it's a big unknown. I mean, have they done enough? It's a huge update again, isn't it? They know Miami, they know the track, they're used to bringing updates here. But I just got an inkling suspicion still about Mercedes. Well, especially Kimi. I'd say George is too far back in the sprint to do anything sort of retrospectively, but certainly Kimi might just get the jump on Lando at the start.
And I think we're going to see a few themes throughout the hour here. One is that we have one more Parc Fermé session, so teams could make these tweaks to get over the hump as McLaren, Mercedes, and Ferrari are all jockeying for position. And also the weather is going to be such a big factor. So perhaps we should just turn over into the forecast. I'll put my weatherman hat back on as we figure out what to make of the Grand Prix tomorrow. So Eric Van Haren, one of these big Dutch reporters, has a great relationship with Max Verstappen. He reported earlier today that the FIA is going to make a decision this afternoon, Eastern time, on when the Grand Prix is going to take place tomorrow. It's originally scheduled to take place right in this pocket of heavy rain, potentially some lightning. And as the day goes on, it's only going to get more and more likely that it's going to be a wet race. But as this forecast develops, we're seeing these pockets right around noon where you could have either reduced rain or even dry running, depending on how far forward you can pull the race. Logistically, it's going to be tricky. You have, I believe, Porsche Super Cups in town this weekend. Formula 2, of course, has their feature race. So can you dislodge some of these support series and sneak the race in earlier?
You can if you do it early enough. And I think that's why the FIA are looking at making the call on it. So you can. It's not something they take very lightly because of broadcasting and obviously being televised around the world. And support series will just make way, like the Porsche Super Cups and stuff like that. They'll just be binned off for the day. That's not a problem as such for the FIA to do that. They've done that quite often in certain things. We saw even last year at Miami, wasn't it? Where ironically it was when the races got shelved for the Lego race in the end, didn't it? If I remember rightly. So it's not unknown for them to do that. They've obviously got a 3-hour window from when the green flag starts to get a race done, so they can stop and start as well. So there is that option. But I think it's sensible to look at moving it. It makes a lot of sense to bring it forward if they can. And I think that with what they've got, they can easily do it. It's a question of whether or not they can do it. That weather forecast seems to be changing though all the time, doesn't it? I've seen about 3 or 4, literally. I've seen it go from 100% down to 55%, down to right in the middle of it. It is just fast moving. And I suppose how far out, I mean, they use better technology than us, don't they, in terms of trying to predict the weather, but even so. But I think also we gotta have an element of these cars need to race in the wet as well. And I was talking to my dad about this last night, and he's a big believer in, do you know what? It's equal for everybody. They've got wet weather tyres. There's an element of just do it, just actually get on and race in it. Because yes, there's torrential. We know there's obviously local laws around thunder and all those bits. Don't get me wrong, you can't when that's happening. But in terms of just a downpour, you can do that. And I think there's a kind of, you've just got to see what these cars are going to be like in the wet. It will spice there. Whether or not it's enough to run a chip, I'm sure there's some comments in there about no negative being used. Big question mark, I suppose. The thing for me is, do you use no negative when you know what's happening? At the moment, we don't know what's happening. If they bring it forward, there's a chain of thought that it might be a waste of a chip because they brought it forward to miss that pocket of weather. If they stay with where it is, actually, no negative then becomes, pretty much on the table, doesn't it, to play?
And your comments are right in line with a question from Best 4000 in the chat. What's the problem with having a wet race? Why does the FIA want to ruin that? It's interesting because we got those initial signs at Spa last year. You have perfectly good full wet tires to run in wet conditions, and they seem to be reticent to doing that. This was a no lightning situation in Spa, and they still avoided it. Now, our producer Greg in the chat reminds us that here in the States, we do have pretty strict regulations around if there's a lightning strike. I think it's a 30-minute delay. You have to suspend the race and then give it a 30-minute period and bring everyone back. But we've become quite good here in the States of giving everyone a place to shelter. You get everyone in one spot, you wait out the lightning, and then you come back. So it's not like one lightning strike, everyone has to go home. So I see this race happening, whether they pull it up or if they break it up into pieces and they have a delay, but they do have to squeeze out the race distance in 3 hours or else we'll have a truncated race. So lots of options on the table. I don't think cancellation's one of them.
No, I don't think there's certainly no intention, especially after when you think what's happened as well. Formula One will move absolutely, I was going to say heaven and earth, but that's quite poignant to this, isn't it? But they will want to make sure there's a race on. There's absolutely no way they will want, what's happened in Bahrain and Saudi Arabia to go into Miami with a cancellation of a race. And to be honest, I think that puts anything on the table in terms of cutting. If they have to F2 all the way down, they will find a way to shoehorn Formula One in if they have to. There's no doubt about that. So I don't think there's any risk of it being cancelled. There's risk of whether or not it's shorter running, whether or not it's got some wet running, interrupted. That's probably the bigger risk. But I don't think cancellation at the moment. No one seems to be talking about cancellation. Most people are talking about moving it or whether or not we're going to get some wet running with some interruptions, that side of things. But of course, interruptions also play a big part. As soon as you red flag, you've got options of tyres, you've got options to fix damage on cars. There's a lot that goes on under a red flag, and ones that I don't agree with personally, but there is a lot that you can change on a Formula One car when you red flag it. So, with that situation, even a red flag can make a difference. If someone's picked up damage and someone's got a tyre offset they can use, you can have a red flag and still actually gain an advantage. Someone not pitted, for example. How many times have we seen that in the past where someone hasn't done their pit stop, you change it in a red flag, that's now classed as mandatory pit stops. Can't remember if they changed that. I know they were on about that at one point. I'll have to double check that one.
There are a lot of ways you can get this right or wrong. I mean, it could be the timing of the movement from slicks to wets into inters and vice versa. The flip side of what you said earlier, Terry, is if you're in the pit when the red flag happens, I think you shuffle to the back of the grid when you come back on. So if you're up at the front, that would be devastating. So a lot of ways this can go wrong. We've gone way too long without soliciting some likes.
We have,
if you haven't smashed that like button yet, do be sure to hit that, because once we hit, what do you say, Terry, 50 likes, 75 likes, we're going to start revealing our lineups, because I've already locked mine in. I'm ready to show it with you.
I've locked mine in, but I haven't scheduled it to go live. So if you see me tapping away, that's why.
It's all good. All right, let's knock out some questions from the chat. I saw one come in a little while ago, -10 to take out Lindblad in favor of Lawson. Now, I've been outspoken about taking a -10 for moving one B driver from one tier B driver into another. This is the one case where I think it's okay, depending on your cost cap situation. Because if we look at the budget builder, Lawson, with a Grand Prix DNF, still gains 0.2 million. And if he can make it through both races, or even with some overtakes, if he DNFs one of these races, still -18 will get him 0.6 million. Whereas Lindblad, you've got to come all the way down here, and somewhere between 6 points and 13 points is probably where he's looking, but he could also collect some damage at the back of the grid, and this could be a tough weekend for him. So this could be a 0.8 to 1.2 million flip here. So if there's a lineup in Canada that you're looking for, you need that little extra bit of cost cap, I don't mind the -10 this one time.
Yeah, I'm not too sure how many of it's going to make up either, like we said about the performance there. So I'm not entirely convinced, certainly in the sprint. Top 8 only score points, as we know, in terms of that. So I think a lot of the teams will be using this as a practice session to get that extra data ready for qualifying later, which is always another bugbear of mine about sprint races. They tend to just turn into a bit of an FP procession, don't they? After you get rid of the top sort of 10, don't they? To be honest, where teams will just run around at the back collecting data, ready to change it in part for me. So I'm not convinced we're going to see a huge amount from that point of view.
And it plays into Alexandra's question in the chat. What are some of the top tier B driver options this week? I would just rank order them by their cost cap gain potential. Of course, both Haas are looking really good for overtakes this week, as they always do. They rank among the top 3 in all of F1 for it. Franco Colapinto, been particularly safe, and he has some pace in that Alpine. And now that Hulkenberg's Australia DNF is off of his 3-race average, he's a good shout for a cost cap gain this week too. Just 1 point to gain 0.6 million. So I think any 3 out of this list here, I don't think many of us could afford Gasly, but let's say from Lawson down to Behrman, excluding Gasly, you'll be in good shape. And then if your cost cap's a little bit light, I don't mind Sergio Perez down here, because his cost cap gain targets are pretty reasonable too.
Yeah, he's looking good, Franco, isn't he, to be honest? Certainly, am I right in thinking he hasn't raced here either again? Is this another one track he hasn't? I can't remember. I'm sure I read a stat somewhere. I can't remember if he's raced here or not. But either way, he's certainly looking strong. Alpine's looking a lot better again. With that Mercedes engine, they're looking quite comfortable.
Now, Lannister asks, Lindblad starting from the pit, does that change the -10 on Lindblad versus Lawson? No, I think if it was Charles Leclerc starting in the pit lane, I think there you have an opportunity for lots of overtakes, and maybe there's a big upside. But like Terry was mentioning a moment ago, with Lindblad's pace, I don't think it's there. He's contending with the likes of Aston Martin and Cadillac. Maybe he can get through 2 or 3 of them, but he's probably going to get stuck when he gets to that next tier of drivers. So I expect a low score from Arvid, even though he's starting in a favorable spot.
Yeah, as soon as he gets towards those Williams that back in there, the Haas is all that side of it. I can't see him clearing those very easy in 19 laps, to be honest. It's not like he's got a new engine in there and it's rocket ship and he's gonna go from start, back to the start, is it?
I'm just seeing the results of our first poll. Who is your 2X driver this week? 69% of you going with Kimi Antonelli, 23% with Leclerc, 5% with someone else other than Lando Norris. So I'm interested to know who that 5% are playing this week. Ooh. And let's come over to the team calculator, because I woke up this morning like Christmas morning. What did F1 Fantasy Tools suggest for my team? I've got a nice big budget at 109.1, and I almost puked in my bed when I saw the best lineup is take a -20 to bring in Charles Leclerc as the 2X driver and then move around all of my beautiful cost cap gaining drivers. So it was the first sign that I might have to do something a little creative this week. As for why Charles Leclerc is scored so high, you can see he leads all projections with 40 fantasy points this week. Let's move across here. There are some clues right here. So the projection is that Leclerc and Hamilton will lead the grid in overtakes this weekend. Now,
I'm
I'm not certain that
not
from where they're
convinced.
starting on the sprint that they're going to pick up a lot of places. I get that there's the initial gain off the start in the two races, but
Is
in the
there?
Grand Prix, in wet conditions, do we see 34 overtakes combined between Ferrari? That feels
I'm going to push back on that because I think that new regulation hinders Ferrari off the starts.
so you're saying
So
that the new piece where you can get some of that
yeah,
that additional power if you have a
yeah.
bad start.
I mean, look what it's aimed at. I mean, ultimately, it's aimed at giving you a boost if you're bogged down. There's only one team that hinders, and the only way they could get around it is a safety measure. So, call me cynical in the world I live in, but the only way you can put in something without Ferrari vetoing is put it under safety. It's coming under safety. It gives the drivers a boost if they're bogged down. That surely can only go against Ferrari. There's no scenario where those new start procedures favour Ferrari at all. Simple as that. There's nothing I can see on paper where it helps them. So for me, it's designed. We know that Mercedes has been practicing their race starts. Mercedes used virtually a whole filming day to look at testing their race starts and doing stuff. So they clearly feel they've unlocked something in that department. It's clearly an area where they're behind on Ferrari and they want to actually close it down one way or the other. So it's clearly an opportunity for them that they've identified and put a lot of focus in it. So it'd be interesting to see what they've done as well, coupled with this. We know they're doing stuff with engines. We saw the turn down in qualifying of certain bits on both the Mercedes and the Red Bull. So we know they're doing things around these engines. And how long is it before they gain it to get a sports advantage? I know the FIA said this isn't here to get a sports advantage, but ultimately
it's a sporting advantage.
By default, gives you a sports advantage. If you're bogged down and you've got an automatic kick in from an engine, that's a sports advantage, whichever way you look at it. There's no two ways of gossip that. There's a way to do it. So I'm not convinced that start is going to be as good as what it was. Hoping I'm wrong, but I can only see the other teams catching them on that point of view.
And then I had a very small window to catch up with Ryder this morning to ask about this driver of the day percentage. And he says that the number of overtakes that are projected plays into the math behind driver of the day likelihood. If you're part of more action and you're taking part in more overtakes, that's probably going to make you stand out more. You'll be on the broadcast more, and that's more likely that you'll get driver of the day. So you can see they also, Charles Leclerc particularly, leads the driver of the day voting percentage in this projection. I'm with you, Terry, in that I disagree that Leclerc is going to stand out that much. Remember, we're counting on Ferrari when the temperature drops 10 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow in the rain to be the highest scoring fantasy assets. And I just haven't seen that out of this recent Ferrari team.
No, and I also think if you've got a Lando or an Oscar who wins this, I think they're going to be more in line for driver of the day anyway. I think anyone who's a non-Mercedes driver who's on top of the podium after what we've seen for the first three races is almost going to be, it feels like a shoe-in for that sort of thing, because that's how, we saw yesterday after qualifying, didn't we? Suddenly that Mercedes domination is broken in pole, and suddenly everyone feels good about qualifying and new regulations, even though we actually didn't change the energy deployment in the qualifying, but we won't talk about that. but yeah, so for me, it's one of those where I think it felt heavily weighted. It felt like a bit like Charles Leclerc brought some shares in fancy Formula Tools overnight. When I opened it up and looked at it, and I'm not sure I'm sharing as much Ferrari optimism as what they've got on there currently, to be honest.
So I think this is going to set the table for a lot of our critiques of these lineups. You and I are a little less optimistic about Ferrari, but so many players are going to take this to heart and play Ferrari heavy lineups, but potentially even Mercedes free lineups. So that's going to play a little bit into how we look at some of your teams here.
Ooh, Terry, should we do some questions? We got loads of questions.
let's fire off some questions. I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah,
a popular question in the chat. I'm seeing the most recent version from Gesling: Mercedes Ferrari or Ferrari McLaren? For me, I think it depends on who your 2x boosted driver is. I'm leaning more toward a stagger where you have maybe a Mercedes driver at the top of your lineup, McLaren, Ferrari, and That way you get a little piece of everything depending on who stands out. Ferrari's a set and forget because they have the really good pit stop strategy. They should be fine enough this weekend. And so I think Ferrari's the one we must have. And as for Mercedes versus McLaren, McLaren have decent pit stops too. So even if Mercedes in the cooler temperatures run away with the Grand Prix tomorrow, McLaren should keep us close. You can pivot out of it in time for Canada if those Mercedes upgrades work better for them. So I like Ferrari McLaren with a Mercedes driver at the top.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this before we come on air when we were obviously messing with lineups, didn't we? And I've done the same. I've tried to cover off all three of those in some form whatsoever, because I think they are quite close in terms of what we got. I think if Ferrari have kept their starts and got off the start, then suddenly they're into good play. I think there's a coin toss between Mercedes and McLaren, and over a sprint race and a race itself tomorrow, that could play a difference in it. So for me, I've tried to cover off all three of them, and then also I've got the back of my mind, we know there's updates coming to that Mercedes in calendar as well. So we know that actually this might just be a false dawn in terms of teams catching Mercedes, because they haven't brought any with them. They brought two minute ones, didn't they? To be honest, it was a tailpipe and something else. It wasn't even worth looking at, was it? So I also think there's an offset in what they've done. They've decided to play safe and go for obviously calendar in terms of update, which we know tends to suit them well. It's going to be cooler there as well. So it's a track that they know well. It's a track they've quite often done very well on, and they're going to bring updates for it. So for me, it might even be that we might see a one-hit wonder in terms of someone come back to the top, Mercedes dropping off, but actually next race they come back in full force. So I think we've got to bear that in mind as well, by everyone trying to pivot too much out of Mercedes. I want to kind of keep a piece of them on there just in case, to be honest.
And Lannister has a similar question. Do you think Mercedes will catch up after the sprint and beat McLaren? I do. And don't just take my word for it. Take the betting woman's word for it. You look right here. You still have Kimi in a deadlock with Lando for the race win tomorrow, and Russell a little bit up the road compared to Piastri. Now, these lines are very tight, so anything could happen after today and what we see in Grand Prix qualifying later this afternoon. But Mercedes should perform better in cooler temperatures. They have one more Parc Ferme to adjust the car to get back into terms so they can compete with McLaren. So I do like them. I wouldn't mind even if people stick with the metal lineup we thought we were going to have going into the week with Antonelli, Mercedes, Ferrari. I think you're going to have to roll that into Canada.
Yeah, and I also think that George, there's more to come from George. He was clearly having problems yesterday, wasn't he? He was clearly having issues with the car and with the power unit and some other bits. So you kind of expect them to get on top of that as well, with either a change or doing something to the car as well from what they've got overnight. So I think George will come back in the qualifying in the race itself tomorrow as well. I don't think he'll be as far off the pace as what we've seen in the sprint qualifying so far from him.
Interesting question from our member Fussell in the chat. Can we speak about mini league tactics?
Ooh,
so there is an all new Antonelli League in F1 Fantasy where you can win some great signed merch from our championship leader, Kimi. It's for 2 races, Miami and Canada. So I would say for whoever hasn't blown out all of their big chips in China and Japan, if you have a team 2 or a team 3, that's the only scenario where I'd suggest using those big chips. On your team 1, the team that you're putting all your stock into, I wouldn't run the 3x boost or limitless with all the uncertainty of this weekend. But if you're just keeping an eye on that mini league, I would maybe try a limitless this week with the thought that the top drivers on the grid are likely safer in the rain than the likes of your V-Carb drivers, your Haas drivers, Audi, etc. So, and then run a 3x boost in Canada. Hopefully we can make sense of Russell, Antonelli, Lando, Leclerc, which 2 would be the best 3x, 2x combo.
Definitely.
All right. Terry, looking at our likes, we've exceeded 50. I'm ready to drop my team.
I think I just posted mine, but
all right. Here it is. I hinted at this. I wanted to have coverage of Mercedes, McLaren, and Ferrari, and I think I've done this in a way that's pretty low risk. Keeping Antonelli on my team because I think he's going to be fine this week and the best 2x boosted option in Canada. McLaren, with their pit stops, should be good enough that even if Mercedes are the best team tomorrow, they should score enough points in F1 Fantasy to keep me close. And what buffers that is by bringing in McLaren, I can just squeak in enough money for double Haas. And so I think there's going to be a lot of overtakes between the two of them. Hulkenberg and Colapinto safe for both points and cost cap growth. So I really like the balance of this team.
Looks good.
Chat, let me know how I'm doing. Am I cooking? Am I missing something? Let me know. I've got 35 minutes to change my mind thanks to these new transfer rules in F1 Fantasy, but I'm really liking this one. So let's come over to Terry's team. I think you've got a very similar one, and you do.
Quite similar to be honest. Mainly purely the likes of Lindblad in there, not because I think he's going to come from the back, because he was in there anyway, to be honest. So it's one of those where I've just put it on there and gone with it. Hulkenberg's brought in. I went same as you had with that coverage when we talked about it before we come on the show. I wanted a bit of everything. It didn't feel comfortable going in with no Mercedes assets whatsoever. If I'm honest, I didn't feel enough around Ferrari and McLaren to go, actually, I'm going to go all in on both those and ignore Mercedes. And out of the two Mercedes driver, obviously, I know that George had problems, but Kim has looked solid coming into this weekend and has also looked solid going into Miami anyway. So it kind of made sense to go with that one. So that's where I'm at with that one. It covers everything off. Yes, it's a -10, but I kind of felt no real combination to move the constructor. I had a B tier constructor in there. So to move out into an A tier, I had to take him on his to be honest. So it's the best of a bad situation, but it also means I can move in and around it, like I said, when I get to calendar as well. So I feel like it's got everything covered. All the bases are covered, and hopefully a bit of budget gain as well to throw in the mix.
And to be fair, I took a -10 on my team too. There's an interesting glitch. I don't know if you saw it or if others are seeing this. When you go to set your team, there's a preview screen that shows how many additional transfers, and it shows it as 0. And you think, oh, I've gamed the system. I'm not taking a -10. And then as soon as you lock it in, it applies the -10. So
literally.
You're not that slick.
Yeah. So be warned to that. Be warned to that. If you've only got 2 transfers, you've only got 2 transfers. Don't go by that confirmation screen whatsoever.
Question in the chat from Matt. He wants to know why I didn't go with Lawson over Colapinto, only because of the gymnastics of moving the team around. I would rather have Lawson than Colapinto in my lineup. I just couldn't make it work with double Haas, which I thought was more important. And so I know what that means. I'm sacrificing the most locked in 0.6 million cost cap gainer of the week, but I think that the guys that I've picked have reasonable enough targets that I can still get there. I just have to hope they all finish the Grand Prix and that they get a few overtakes to make that worthwhile, but it is a little bit riskier.
Yeah, so I've only got, I already had Liam locked in, so it was kind of like a no-brainer to keep him in there, to be honest. And same with Franco, to be honest. So for me, the only sort of change was I moved one driver out, brought Hulkenberg in, and then made a move with the constructors. So that's what come about with that one. So I brought Hulkenberg in and then changed the constructors around, which is what's caused it. So he was already there. It kind of made sense to keep him in there. So
our friend Rick has joined us. Hi, Rick.
Hi,
Rick says, are you valuing points more now over budget gains? For me, I think regardless of what your budget is, I would pause for Miami and Canada. Let's absorb as many points as we can on a sprint weekend in these next 2 sprints. And then if you still want to keep building your budget starting in Monaco, you just slowly pivot back to a tier B constructor and then build it long term. But also, when you have the likes of Lawson, Hulkenberg, Ocon on your team, you are gently building your budget too. There should be at least 1.5 to 2 million in it for those of us that are running 2 tier A constructors. And if you look over here, the team on the top is my previous cost cap building team. And these are some of the top liners for this week. The points delta, it's, 47 points between the two of them. So for me, I'm going to give cost cap building a break, take that 40 plus point delta, and then we'll get back to our regularly scheduled programming for Monaco.
Yeah, it feels like it might be too much for a big hit if you just chase budget here, doesn't it? In terms of what you might lose in points. You might gain the budget, but I think you choose sprint race, you've got the potential to be well far down on the point side of things.
And then, Rick, you shared your lineup in the chat. You've got Antonelli, Hamilton, Behrman, Ocon, Lawson, Ferrari, Haas. I would figure out a way to go from Hamilton and Haas into McLaren, and then whoever else you can afford at the bottom there. If that's Hulkenberg, he's fine. Certainly, the higher up you can go, the better. But I think a lot of us can afford Hulkenberg there.
I think Rick's got very similar to what I had before, actually. So I think Rick needs to go, if he wants to, the same way as mine, where you move into it by getting rid of Hamilton, and that frees up the money to start moving into McLaren down the bottom. That's what I did with mine, Rick. So that's what I'd look at doing, and then just see kind of what you got left. You're probably gonna have to take a -10 potentially in there, but I think it's worth it. So
2 thumbs up for me on a -10 this week. If you're pivoting from a tier B constructor into this meta, one of the frameworks that we showed earlier, I think it's a -10 is fine. -20 is where we start getting dicey, and you should consider wildcard.
Yeah.
Speaking of -10s, here's our friend Race Maven. She's got This lineup here, that's using 2 transfers. You've got Arvid here, -10 to get Mercedes in as the second constructor, or -10 for McLaren, but maybe bringing in Gabby over Behrman. And then using 1 transfer and rolling 1 would be a cost cap booster here. I'm leaning toward keeping this first lineup. You've got a nice points foundation with Antonelli, Ferrari, and McLaren, if I do say so myself. That's the team that you and I have. And then great cost cap boosting drivers down here. And then your question is, if you want to take a -10 to replace Lindblad for Lawson, it's one of the rare examples where it's a guaranteed 0.6 million to get you up over 107. You could do that, or you let it roll, keep your fingers and toes crossed that Lindblad makes some magic happen in the spring.
I've not got a lot to add to that. I think you're right. I mean, Team 3 looks interesting, but I think you're leaving points on with McLaren there by that Team 3, keeping the Haas in there. I feel that it might be leaving too much to roll a transfer. I think you'll get a transfer, but I'm not sure that warrants the points difference that you're going to have by leaving McLaren out somewhere.
Question in the chat about who do I think is better, Leclerc or Antonelli?
Antonelli.
I think it's Antonelli. The Sims disagree with me, but I'm having a hard time finding supporting facts around Leclerc having this much more pace. Antonelli should be a lot faster on Sunday in the cooler conditions. I trust Mercedes more in wet conditions to get the strategy right. I would stick with Antonelli. He'll also likely be the 2X driver you'd want in Canada, so it'll save you a transfer.
Yeah, like I say, I'm not sure we saw enough in free practice and then sprint qualifying to warrant Leclerc being so high up. Yes, he was fast, but we saw limited runs, didn't we, in FP session? I know Kimi didn't get a soft run in free practice session, 0.2%. Do you know what I mean? It's 0.2 off. It kind of feels like that rear wing is good, but I'm not sure it's making a difference. The Sims are suggesting looking at it.
Race Maven with the super duper chat. Thank you so much, Race Maven. We always appreciate it. Hopefully we help.
Yeah, question in the chat, is Colapinto good regard in the rain? It's big unknown. No one's really driven these cars in the rain, so it is a real unknown. They haven't tried them. We don't know how they're going to behave. We know that in the wet, certain things kick in. So, for example, the boost is restricted, and also the X and the Y, only the rear opens, not front, that side of things. So there are certain things that when the track is wet, a bit like DRS being deactivated, there's certain things that the drivers can't use. That's going to make the cars behave differently. That's going to add a different element to it. So it's something you can't recreate very easily until you actually get the cars on track and do it. So I think it's one of those where we can't really sit in and say X amount of drivers is going to be good. You would go for experience over anything, as you normally would in wet conditions. But then we've only got really Arvid, who's the only rookie on the grid. All the rest have actually driven in some form of wet condition train racing. So yeah, it's a different one on that one.
We've reached the half-hour mark, so make sure you start setting your lineups. Let us know what questions you have in the chat. And if you're hearing this for the first time, make sure you hit that like button too, because it does a world of good for the show and the channel. Question in the chat from either Ali or Ali, 49. Merc to McLaren for -10. No, I'd keep Merc, I think, if it's a -10 that you're in between.
From -10, I'd keep it. I don't think it's worth that one on that point of view.
And, one of the players I really look up to, Porsche F1, he finished in the top 3 2 seasons ago, finished in the top 100 last year. Only player I've ever seen on the US League podium 2 years in a row. He's going with Antonelli, Mercedes, Ferrari. So unless he's changed his lineup in the last hour or so, no McLaren coverage at all. So something that gives me faith in backing Mercedes.
Yeah, just to answer Will's question, it's more of a case I didn't want to take it in a -10. So he's saying about running 2 Racing Bulls one. It was more of, to be honest, I would have had to take it in a minus and be -20 to move them both out. So I wouldn't say I've got extreme confidence in the Racing Bulls over someone like Haas. It was more of I didn't feel the need to move one of them in exchange for that. Lawson's obviously got a good chance going at 0.6, like Adam said, and Lindblad was kind of there anyway. So it felt like I'd just go with it rather than some extreme confidence in what they're doing.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, logistics rather than on track faith is probably the best way behind it. Points.
Rick's back with his lineup: Antonelli, Behrman, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Lawson, Ferrari, McLaren. That's pretty much my team with Lawson over Colapinto, which I would actually prefer, Rick. So change nothing.
Yeah, and I
beautiful.
think he said that he didn't use any extra transfers for that either. So if he didn't, happy days.
And then almost right on cue, Matt McCarty's come in, Antonelli, Behrman, Ocon, Lawson, Hulkenberg, Ferrari, McLaren. Beautiful. Ooh,
Oh,
here,
oh, you
we
just saw
just
the
saw the
same one
same
again.
question. I played Limitless this week accidentally. What would be the best picks? Oh, okay. Let's do this. Let's use some science here. I would say Antonelli, Norris, Russell, Leclerc, Piastri
Yeah,
with either.
McLaren Merc.
I'd be fine with that. And then
It's,
as for the
it,
2x boost, if you're already going wild with Limitless, I put the 2x boost on Norris just to see if you can cook up if anything unthinkable happens to Antonelli, all of us are going to get hit for it, but you with Norris would get a pretty big bump for it.
I'm not sure how many are going to be leading with Lando as their main driver, so it might be a good shout on that one. Because to get Lando in takes a bit of pivoting, I think, from where they've been. So I think we might see McLaren appear in terms of the Meta and everyone else going into that. But I think in terms of trying to pivot Lando in, I'm not too sure how many is going to be leading with Lando as a driver in a 2x one. I think most people are trying to get him in.
I expect very few because you can look at the price. He's 2.5 million more expensive than Antonelli, and look at the cost cap gain thresholds he has. He needs to go out of this world to gain value this week. So I think really the decision now is Antonelli versus Leclerc for the 2x boosted driver on normal teams. So for Limitless, you don't have to worry about these cost cap thresholds. Gives you a real advantage.
Yeah, you're going to gain some good points on everyone else as well if that comes off.
All right. Matthew wants to know, got Antonelli, Behrman, Colapinto, Lawson, Hulkenberg with Ferrari. Don't know McLaren or Mercedes as your second tier A. We've gone for McLaren just to split it up. You've got McLaren coverage, Ferrari coverage, Antonelli coverage, and then you're going to be right no matter what. If you really want to make moves in your mini league and you've just got to grit and bear it, go all in on Mercedes. I think today's going to be a tougher day for Mercedes, but tomorrow they should shine a bit brighter.
Yeah.
Lindblad out for Colapinto or Ocon for a -10?
No.
That's the only person that I would take a -10 to sub Lindblad out for is his teammate Lawson, because he can DNF and that decision won't totally backfire. Anybody else, you could take a -10. That driver DNFs, that means a -20 on top of a -10, and you don't get the cost cap gains. That happened to me a few times last year, and it's devastating. I don't want it for you.
Rebecca thinks I'm thinking I should go with Mercedes rather than McLaren. I got the Leclerc in case I need to pivot to Mercedes in Canada.
Ooh, it's good. It's a good shout, Rebecca, and I like your Snoopy avatar. I'll tell you, I was back and forth with going with Mercedes because I've been touting them all week. I think they will be fine. McLaren feels a little bit riskier because I'm not sure about what Piastri can bring. I think, like you said earlier, Terry, Russell should be quite competitive tomorrow, whereas Piastri, will he be right up there with the top of them? I'm not sure yet. So it's a fair shout. Nabil says Hulk is out. Did something happen to Hulkenberg? No, it's too early for an installation lap. Is there some sort of car issue? Or are we just talking about lineups?
No, I think they're trying to. I'm not seeing anything yet. But then we have.
Oh, a second person has said Nico is out. I'm out. Internet sleuths, help me figure this out. We're going to sort this out together, everybody. I don't even know wants to know Antonelli over Leclerc. For me, yes. -20 or wild card in general this week. You're right at the limit of where I would take wild card, so I'd be good using it. And if you're already taking the wild card, feel free to make some of these little moves that I wouldn't otherwise use a transfer on. Like if you're going from Behrman to Ocon, or vice versa. You could do little tweaks like that too. Someone says Hulkenberg's car is on fire.
It is. Hulkenberg is at a halt at turn 17. He's out of the car and okay.
He's out of the... Okay. Well, breaking news. What happens if Hulkenberg gets out of our lineups? How can we fix that? Because a -10 is incoming for the sprint. And then that means...
I was going to say, do we have to move him out?
That means now all of a sudden he goes from cost cap friendly to cost cap unfriendly. Holy mackerel. All right, team. We got
to... Greg's looking to see about Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg stood at turn 17.
How fast can I get someone else in? Oh boy. This is going to be
Who'd you get in?
No negative. That's a fair shout. If you slap it on now, you're guaranteed a -10.
Absolutely. I'd seriously be making some moves. If you got Hulkenberg in, literally I would make some moves to move him out, because that car ain't making a grid if it's on fire, let's be honest about it. And in fact, I'm pretty sure there's something you got to make your way under your own steam anyway. So I don't think they can get that car onto the grid.
No, if it's recovered, yeah.
That's what I mean. If he's out the car, I think he's out, because you can't have outside assistance to get it there either. So I think that he's definitely out of the sprint, if nothing else.
Holy mackerel. All right, let's
save some people, Adam. Let's go onto the budget calculator. Let's have a look at what the options are.
I think we're gonna have to do this in real time. Well, let me get this out of here so we're not all staring at my password. That's all I need. Lance Stroll's my 2x boosted driver next week, because someone was extra stealthy here. All right, everybody, what can I do? I think Hulkenberg and Ocon out, and then why doesn't it rank these in numerical order? That's going to drive me nuts. So then Lawson's for sure in. Then it's a matter of Lindblad, who's not looking great. I mean, if he needs 13 points to gain value, or we get really bold, throw Checo in. I'm holding on to some extra money, but then Checo with a negative score can still squeak by with 0.2 million.
Yeah, I'm looking at that now. Oh.
This just got weird really fast.
You're watching live reactions. So what do we do with a fantasy team?
Yes, that's still, because it's net transfers, I don't lose any more. Team, what are you all doing? How about wildcard now, Race Maven? Yeah, if you locked in a lineup with Hulkenberg and then you're stuck, then yeah, perhaps maybe wildcard now to avoid -10 and what is probably, they sprayed champagne on his car to put out the fire. I think that's producer Greg just having a laugh at us. Colapinto instead of Hulkenberg, if you can afford it, absolutely. I can't move Colapinto out to wiggle in Ocon, because now I'm taking another -10.
I've got a literary situation where I can go Checo, Bortoletto, or Bottas, or Stroll. That's where I'm at. Wow.
No place on that Stroll. If I take out Lawson, oh my goodness, I can get into Alonso. These options are terrible.
They're terrible. They're terrible.
Why not? No, why not? No negative. Okay, now it's starting to get interesting. You could keep.
If you play no negative, that covers you for the rain tomorrow as well, doesn't it?
It would, but let me tell you, it's not saving you from the inevitable -0.6 million you're getting out of Hulkenberg. So if you're cost cap sensitive, no negative will protect you from today's inevitable -10. Thank goodness they've lowered that penalty, but it will not save you from the transfer, the cost cap impact. Ew, this team's pretty gross, but I think I've got to do it. I'm gonna hang out here for a little bit and see if the chat can come up with something better for me.
I'm in the same boat. I think it's going to have to be Checo in his first Cadillac Home Grand Prix as the Hail Mary here.
I mean, Gabby's got an uphill battle. He's going to lose value.
I just look, Gabby's right down 54%, isn't he? -0.6.
And then Bottas versus Perez. You got to at least go with Perez and hope he finishes the Grand Prix. If he does that, he's fine-ish. Wow, what a buzzkill. That's going to take 10 points off of a lot of teams. I wonder who has set a team. Like Ewan, for example. He set his team and then went on a plane.
Oh, no.
So hopefully he's got good Wi-Fi on that thing.
Yeah, hopefully he's got a bit of Starlink going on there.
Yeah, hit the like button if you want to see me sweat more. I might start
Yeah.
crying soon. I've got 5 minutes to comfortably lock in this team. I don't want to wait until the last 5 minutes because God forbid I hit the lock button and then all of a sudden F1 Fantasy's having
I
a
don't,
kerfuffle.
I don't think that there's any other choice really. I think it's got to be Checo, hasn't it?
Matthew, no negative with Hulk or a wild card. I'd say wild card at this point. Holy smokes. That is proper fire coming out of.
Yeah, I mean that's not good anyway. Anytime soon, is it? Let's be honest about it.
Does that delay the start of the sprint? I mean, it's not going to delay the start, the lineup lock deadline.
I think it depends where it is, doesn't it? From that point of view.
There's another good point. You go from Antonelli to Leclerc would be another transfer. That's a mess. That would free up the cost cap to then squeeze back in double Haas. Oh boy, we are sweating in real time now. So for those of you just tuning in, we've got Hulkenberg definitely out of the sprint race. Car's on fire, needs to be recovered. Now we're looking at teams like this: Antonelli, Behrman, Lawson, Perez, Colapinto, McLaren, Ferrari. How much money do I have left over? 0.9 million. Could be worse. And so maybe now I'm just trying to just get into some cost cap gains, survive the week, hope Antonelli, McLaren, Ferrari save the day, live to fight another week in Canada. Mexes, I'm not doing no negative. I can tell you that much. There will be no chips going down unless I hear that another driver on my team is on fire in the next 10 minutes. We should be good. One more driver on my team on fire, I'm definitely pulling out the wild card. Yes, Hulk can still race tomorrow, and I suspect he will.
Yes.
The question is going to be, can they recover the car and fix it in time for Grand Prix qualifying this afternoon? Otherwise, he's at the back. That could be a good or bad thing.
Haven't they, to be fair?
All right. Because the rules this year are net transfers, I'm going to make this change. We're still looking okay. I'll leave this here. I owe all my socials a new post of my team and a big long apology. Has anyone done something similar to this that's going to move things around, or are Perez and Lawson, Colapinto? That doesn't instill a ton of confidence in me.
No. It went from a lineup that felt okay and felt good to a complete disaster, to be honest, in the space of 1 turn 17.
Alexander's going with Ocon, Behrman, Colapinto, Bortoleto. That's one way to free up the cash. Yeah, Alexander agrees. Wouldn't trust Lawson and Perez. I wouldn't either. Rick, Antonelli and Perez or Leclerc, Lindblad? Antonelli, Perez.
Yeah.
I think Lindblad's still a mess there. Is Hulkenberg still rising? No. So he needs -8 to avoid a 0.6 million drop. It's at least -10 for not starting the sprint. He then needs to qualify at the Grand Prix and then needs to get some overtakes to claw his way back into price gain territory. Have to have a big one tomorrow in wet conditions.
It feels risky, doesn't it?
Can I afford Ocon instead of Colapinto and Checo to Bottas? Oh, I could, but do I want to? I don't think I want to. Because that would be another -10. I'm already taking a -10, so that'd be -20 for Bottas coverage. We're taking Ocon over Behrman for -10? No. I would stick with Behrman this week, but you'll probably want to sub him out for Canada because that Japan DNF it means he's going to have some very big weeks to not be a cost cap liability in Canada. Yeah, Sergio is slamming the wild card. I don't blame you. We're almost at wild card o'clock if one more crazy thing happens. It seems like it happens every time with Miami. We were this deep into the show last year when Leclerc found himself in the barrier on the reconnaissance lap. So this kind of thing just happens.
Right.
All right. New question in the chat. I have Norris, Antonelli, Colapinto, Lawson, McLaren. What driver and constructor should I take? Depends on your cost cap. It would depend on your cost cap. With Norris Antonelli, you probably can't afford much better than a Haas or a V-Carb. And then best available driver out of the rest. You're running out of options with Hülkenberg out of this sprint. A lot of us are diving into Checo. Greg, if you're out there, feel free to fire up a question in the chat about how you're making. If you had Hülkenberg, what are you doing now?
Crying.
Perez, Bortoleto.
All crying.
Just
option 3, crying.
Swimming in a pool of your own tears. What happens next?
Right. Well, I moved him out anyway. So yeah, we're going with what we got.
Mia wants to know V-Carb, Haas, Audi, or Alpine. In light of recent events, not Audi.
No, avoid Audi.
If you could afford Alpine, they look quite good. I would say Alpine, Haas, V-Carb, Audi in that order.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Mex is 15 right. We seem to be stuck on Perez or Bortoleto, to be honest, as our options.
Just checking to make sure there's no new sim. Yeah, Perez looking at negative points because basically, if we come across here, and expect a 1 in 3 chance of a DNF. Oh boy.
Whew.
Oh boy. We'll stay tuned. We got
Sebastian. If you can do Lindblad instead of Volk, absolutely go Lindblad. We can't because of budget and losing far too much money by going that way.
Yeah, I think so. Our friend Pop Panman is going with Lawson Lindblad. Oh boy, have we come full circle where you might just want to take the hit on Arvid Lindblad? You wonder, does he get 6 points? It's minus 0.2 million. You're at least going to get the points. Oh boy. What do you all think? Should I move in this lineup Perez to Lindblad? Basically, you have cost cap potential, but higher likelihood of DNF. Lindblad has some minute potential of overtakes in the sprint.
Perez is going to trundle around, isn't he, realistically? But I think the hope is that Perez might just trundle around and finish the race.
How is Cadillac? As a constructor, not good. At all. No. Like as a constructor for F1 Fantasy, not good. In terms of their individual drivers, pretty good for low budget teams, good for cost cap enabling. Bottas is almost at the price floor, and I think he's going to be a must have.
Oh, no.
The group is split.
Matthew's 0.1 off getting Lindblad. Ouch. That's painful.
I'll tell you, they price these drivers so well so that so many of us are hitting our heads against the wall. Would I still keep 2 Tier A constructors? Yes. I don't. Yeah. I'm not so panicked that I would go back into a V-Carb constructor to get in a Charles Leclerc. Race Maven, I am exactly 50-50. Ooh, and stressing. You could do Bortoleto instead of Hulk, but I'm nervous about his cost cap gain potential. He's down here, 21 plus points for Gabby. Feels like a really impossible feat for him. Oh, yeah, good question from Rick. Terry, how did you undo this mess? Have you fixed this mess yet?
Not yet. I'm just about to.
BZ's in the chat. What's up, Brian? Great timing for us to have a live show for you. You can only get to Bottas if you get out of Hulk. Ew.
I went with Checo. It's the only answer. To be honest, it was Checo or Bortoleto.
You can't get Lindblad?
I've already got him.
Oh, right, you do already.
Yeah, I've already got him. So I'm literally I'm in Checo or Bortoleto, and considering one of the Audis is currently on fire, I'm gonna go with Checo. If that answers your question, Rick, that's where I've gone with that one, on the basis of one Audi's on fire due to an engine problem. So do you know what? Maybe going the other Audi driver ain't the most sensible move on this one.
Brian's got your back. He says, I'm going to have Checo and hold my nose.
Yeah, I'm going to have Checo. Can we all get Checo for driver of the day? Is there any way we can get some like internet craze going that everyone votes for Checo for driver of the day so we can get the extra 10 points?
I'm going to throw around my extra cost cap. I'm right now going to Lindblad. I like what he could do now compared to Checo. It's not a high confidence pick at all. Question in the chat: Checo, Lawson, or Perez? Isn't that the question? Lawson can gain 0.6 million if he DNFs the race. He's number one. Checo is Perez. So that's easy.
49% of the poll are crying.
Same.
I think that's it, really. Alpine for -10. V-Carb was in my original team. Nah, this one worth -10.
Davey wants to know what your full team with Checo is, Terry. I imagine it's literally this with Checo
literally.
for Hulkenberg.
Yeah, literally. Hulkenberg's out, Checo's in. That's literally the swap I made.
And my team is this, but with Lindblad instead of Checo, instead of Hulkenberg.
So yeah.
Oh,
and
boy.
And that's purely because I've got Lindblad, I've got Colapinto, and I can't really go anywhere else with it, to be honest, in terms of where I can go with it. So
I'm ready for some. Terry, you want to knock out some rapid fire questions?
Yeah, let's go for it.
We've got a few minutes left. I'm going to leave my team up on the screen as reference for any of you.
Yeah.
Will says, couldn't you get to Ocon? I don't think Terry could get to Ocon.
No, I haven't got a budget for it now. It's just out. So
Max says, this is a mess. This is a mess. Happens in Miami every year.
However, it's a mess.
I'm glad we're doing it together.
And also, it's a mess before we get going. So actually, I'm glad it's happened now with enough time to make a difference rather than like now. So
yes. Better, but if it happens in 10 minutes, you're just screwed. Oh, yeah, exactly. What happened? Hulkenberg's car is on fire. So -10 in the sprint. You have a chance to get him out immediately. I've done it for Lindblad. Terry's done it for Checo. Chances of Bottas DNFing, according to the F1 Fantasy Tools Sims, the odds of Bottas DNFing are among the top on the grid at about 1 in 3.
Race cancellation, no, I think it'll be moved forward. I was saying earlier, I think we're going to get racing of some sort. So I wouldn't say we're going to get a cancelled race. We might get a wet running, we might get an early start, but no. No, Hulkenberg isn't rising 0.6 million. So no, not unless he has some sort of monster Sunday on the back of it.
For those of you considering no negative, it's not a bad play, by the way. I just think, number one, you're still going to eat the cost cap loss on Hulkenberg. And number two, I think they're going to move this race to a time right before a huge downpour in Miami, and it could do nothing for you. And I know, as someone who was snake bitten by doing the same thing in Spa last year.
Yeah, I think it depends what you mood for. If you want to use a no negative to cover off the weather, then it's got the potential, hasn't it? If you're trying to use a no negative just because you got Hulkenberg and the other options aren't that appealing, then I'm not too sure that's the right way to use it, because it's not really the best use of a chip. So I'm with Adam. I think they've got enough warning. They've talked enough about it. Kind of feels they've been prepping us to move in the race. Yeah, we normally get these leak stories when we know they're going to move it. It's normally designed to get the fans used to the idea of it, get some sort of narrative, and it's going to change as well. So I wouldn't be surprised sometimes if this stuff gets leaked deliberately to prepare you for the fact it's going to be moved. And so I think we get racing some way or another.
All right, I'm gonna one-word answers for a bunch of you. 2S boost for the worst team. Give me Lance Stroll. Bortoletto instead of Hulkenberg. No. Let's see what Hulk can do tomorrow. No negative. I'm not doing it, but some people are, so it's not a bad play. -10 to get Perez and Colapinto. If you have to. Would you go for Stroll instead of Perez, Gabby, and Bottas? Never. Lance Stroll still hasn't finished a race yet.
I didn't get a lap in yesterday. Can we just,
Yeah, I don't think he
didn't even push a lap in qualifying. So yeah.
I think we're all going to take this hit this weekend, Will. Yeah, I agree. Let's just survive it.
We're either going to get lucky or not, aren't we? Let's be honest.
Ain't that the truth? I'm refreshing my lineup just to make sure all of my transfers go through. Thank goodness it's net transfers. Can you imagine me just racking up a -30, -40 on the live here? Whew. Forced to go with Leclerc instead of Kimi now. I get that. I don't hate the play of Leclerc over Kimi if it's not an additional -10 and it allows you to get out of Hulkenberg. I get that.
Right, so every driver... so Fernando Alonso's gone on to the soft tyres, just very quickly. Lance Stroll's on the soft tyres. Checo and Valtteri on the hard tyres. Everyone is on the medium, which makes perfect sense because they've only got one race set of hards for tomorrow, so they
And
will
they
be
have,
using
they
the
have an
hard.
extra set of softs because they
Yeah.
didn't make it far in sprint
Exactly.
qualifying.
Well, Aston probably don't think they're going to get 19 laps, so they're probably just going to go out for pace for 10 laps before they retire.
All right,
That's
gang.
it. We
We
done.
have hit the top of the hour, and
Oh,
Miami delivered
wow.
another stressful hour. Thank you all so much for joining us. Best of luck to each and every one of you this week. I wish you many points. Terry and I are going to be right back here for Canada in just a few weeks. We're going to have some special content in between to break down everything we learned from Miami, so stick around for that.
Cool.
Thanks so much
See
for
you.
watching. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.